Professor Habib, who teaches in Marseille, gave a speech on a conference you can find on the net. His speech was actually the most interesting one of the whole conference. But he carried out a series of studies on the brain. He used 3 methods. He used encephalogram. He used IRM, 2 kinds of IRM, functional and morphological IRM. Now, morphological IRM is basically a study of what makes up the brain. And he compared 2 populations, what he calls a standard population, and also those who belong to the whose IQ is above 130. And he saw differences in the substance of the brain in 2 areas, in the frontal area and the parietal area. And what he found out is that the morphology of the brain is different in gifted people. There are more connections between the 2 areas of the brain. Their brains are basically different, and that's something that is true from birth. Children who are gifted are born with a brain that's different. And when you talk about intuition, well, it's actually a mechanism. It's a machine that works at lightning speed. And it's not intuition. It's something that's based on reality and reasoning. Thank you.
En fin de compte, c'est dès la naissance. On est avec un cerveau différent. Et c'est quelque chose, c'est une constante qu'on retrouve selon ce qu'il dit. Et je mets ça en rapport avec l'intuition parce que ce mécanisme fulgurant et assez sûr aussi a quand même une base réelle.
Somebody who worked in a number of different ministries once said that Mr. Manoury, who used to work in a simple garage, and later Mr. Manoury became the Minister of National Education. And this person who was talking about Mr. Manoury said that he, this former simple worker in a garage, he was who hadn't had the same opportunities in as far as studies were concerned. He was the most intelligent of all the people in the ministry. That he had the best capacity to summarize. He always had the best ideas on any kind of subject, even those he didn't know. He had exceptional qualities, and he became Minister of National Education. Now, Jean-Charles Terrassier said that he wanted to create a school starting 1 year earlier, that is to say at the age of 5 instead of 6. And Mr. Manoury accepted this. He wanted to put in place a series of tests. But unfortunately, the following minister to occupy this position did not continue this project. But in any case, Mr. Manoury, once again, was the most intelligent person in the ministry, according to this person. One could mention company directors, also on a different subject, company directors, and very often they're ahead of their competitors. They beat their competitors mainly thanks to their intuition. So intuition is an important element, but it doesn't work everywhere. It may work in professional life, but it doesn't necessarily work everywhere.
Elle fonctionne pas partout. Elle peut fonctionner dans un domaine professionnel, mais pas, ça n'en fait pas des mages non plus.
So we're going to continue talking about intuition, and I'd like to talk about a theory of Antoine de la Garandrie. He theorized the way. He theorized a certain way of functioning, taking the example of memorization. He studied the way in which people memorize. Some people needed to read something perhaps several times. Some people need to listen to something to be able to memorize it. Others needed to associate it with certain gestures. And others functioned, or the others needed to feel in some way what they were memorizing. They needed to associate it with some kind of feeling. Now, this feeling is not empathy, as even dogs and cats feel empathy, but this feeling is actually a specific way of assimilating information, so that it can be used later effectively. This is the feeling that I'm talking about. Now, Helen Catherou worked with Antoine for about 30 years. She's a specialist in this domain, and she said that many people use this method of feeling. There are other ways, but this is a predominant way of a predominant method. This method of feeling, because if you feel something, then you can't be wrong. Now, this is, in a word, this intuition we are talking of. It doesn't mean that you always have to rely on intuition, but this is basically the idea. Now, I'd like to read a passage for you quickly. So these people are astonished when they see that nobody agrees with their point of view when they try to refute received wisdom, trying to show that the received wisdom is stupid with well-founded arguments. Now, listening to one's intuition should be an absolute rule, actually. But later on, people are often criticized for not having listened to their own intuition, which was right, and which is always right, and which we listen to so rarely. The thing is that the reasoning of the person who refutes this received wisdom is so different and so unexpected that it seems wiser, more reasonable, safer to not listen to this intuition and not even try to understand this intuition. Now, dazzling intuition, practically impossible to justify with rational arguments, does not support or enhance one's self-confidence. This intuition actually stigmatizes he or she who undergoes these sudden and ununderstandable illuminations. Many people say that it is difficult for them to persuade others that they are always right. The others say, well, how do you know that you're right? But it must be said that it is difficult to justify one's intuition. Intuition is not always rationally justifiable.